Hey, welcome back to the Ace Football Academy, and this is your Friday Footy Talk for August 15th, 2025. I'm Coach Dunham. This is Coach Hamilton. We are moving into our second episode of our series of how to set up your 1.5 hour, 2 hour training session and some details that us coaches really need to think about when preparing for our lesson plan. Today, we're going to be looking into two topics. One, the art of the transition. Transitioning between from your warm up into your technical, from your technical into your small sided game, and so on and so forth. It's that in between variations and right ways and wrong ways that we see a lot of coaches working that. In the second part of our episode, we're going to look into how to bring intensity and energy into your practices without creating chaos where people get injured, but intensity that has purpose. So, Coach, last week we really dug into the structure of how to set up your training session. And, one thing I want to add in from last week that we really didn't talk about was write it down. Write out your training session of what you're going to do. Don't do it 30 minutes prior to. I've planned out an entire week to 2 weeks ahead of time.
Sunday night.
And just like a teacher, I'm planned and ready to go with a specific topic.
Yes, Sunday night. I can't believe we didn't talk about this last week.
I agree.
My Sunday nights, I make myself an adult beverage, and I spend an hour drawing out my session, because at that point, I've played or I've seen our preseason trainings or whatever it is, right? So I've gone back and watched film. I've gone back and reviewed the sessions that we did last week. And so I know, okay, here's what we want to do moving forward, right? And I write it down. And here's the other thing I do. And again, I open my parent meetings, club or school, with saying, I know I'm a crazy person. I know I'm probably over the top, but also, you move my stack of notes when we record this podcast. You move them every week. You're like, oh my gosh, here he is again. But like, I take notes during the session too. Like, hey, this needs to be wider next time. Or, hey, add in a neutral. Or, hey, this did not work at all, right? So I take notes during it too, because we're going to end up going way too long on the structure again. But I think the structure of things is so important because it does lead into your transitions.
Great point, Chris. I'm glad we put that in there because it kind of leads into why transitions are so important. Number one, you've got to be planned and prepared because it creates confusion and chaos when dealing with these transitions. So one of the things that you and I do, I think we do our practices kind of similarly, is we set up our cones for the entire practice 10 to 15 minutes before practice starts. So if I have a whole field to myself, on this half, I'm setting up my warm-up and I'm setting up my technical training area. And I'm using different colored cones for each one. So I say, hey, in the red boxes, do your 4v1 one-touch passes. All right, folks, in the orange box, we're going to work on our technical skills. Please get your ball in the box. All right, folks, in the green cones, we're going to work on our small side. And that lets them know where to go. And so I say, all right, you've got 30 seconds. Get your ball, get to the red box, go. And now they know 1, 2, and 3 what needs to happen.
Well, and I will just piggyback on that. It's also in those transition moments, hey, go grab some water, take off all my red cones.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so now they're transitioning to a water break, and they're also pulling off those red cones. And so now I'm like, okay, hey, see the yellow cones? They're like, yeah. I'm like, all right, here's what we're doing. Right? So I think a lot of that, the different colored cones are a gold mine, right? They are so clutch. I have 5 or 6 colors in every bag I have, right? Because you don't know what you're gonna. You do when you plan, but you don't know how many colors you're gonna need leading into the season. And so, being able to have those transitions where you're right, hey, go here, go here, go here, but also those transitions that save time where I don't have to spend a lot of time going, hey, I need that cone, and oh wait, no wait, I need that cone to stay, right? Because all my cones are orange. I can say, hey, Go grab some water on your way. I need every yellow cone off the pitch.
1000%. And to add to the cones, the training vests
Yeah.
are also in the boxes.
Yeah.
If I'm doing a 4v1,
Yeah.
I've got a vest for the defenders. If I'm doing a 3v3 on my small sided game,
Yep.
I've got 3 orange and I've got 3 blues.
Yep.
So now I'm not saying, oh crap, I've got to make teams now that we're down here.
Right.
I say 3 of you in orange, 3 of you in blue, other 3 behind the goals, and they just go.
I love that you said that because I'm going to go back to the structure of things as well, just real quickly, because I think this helps with transition too. We talked a lot about going full-sided or as full-sided as you can to end training sessions, right?
Mm-hmm.
But already having those teams made. Hey, Johnny, Jerry, Jeff, John, go put on blue. And, A, B, and C, D go put on orange, right? Already having those teams made, whether you're running first team offense against first team defense, or you're running seconds versus whatever it is. But and I know that there are moments where I don't need to have teammates, and I can say, hey, get in groups of 4 real quick. But especially for those full-sided moments where you're like, all right, hey, I need 2 groups of 9. And then you look up, and one group of 9 is all the attacking players, and the other group of 9 is all the defending players. Now I have defending players having to play striker because that's how, so having those teams already made, I think also helps with the transition side of things.
So let's talk about, all right, I said, all right, on my field, I'll say you've got 2 minutes to go get a drink and come back and go into the green box with your ball.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they take 2 minutes to get to the water and another 2 minutes to drink the water and another 2 minutes to get back. We've wasted 5 to 8 minutes of just waiting on them to drink water. And I don't know if you do this as well, but if I'm ready for them to come back and I've got kids walking, and which drives me crazy, by the way, when kids walk back to the training session, they should be jogging with their ball to get there with a purpose.
Right.
I'll start counting down from 5.
Yeah.
And I'll start yelling 5, 4. You want to see kids sprint their brains out because they know what's going to happen if they're not where they're supposed to be when I get to 0. Because if there's 1 or 2 people that aren't in my box by the time I get to 0, guess what we're doing? We're running a lap.
Yeah.
Because I want them to understand that there are consequences when I give you a specific direction and I told you 2 minutes and you're wasting all my time. You're wasting everybody else's time.
So I'm gonna piggyback on that for just a second. I actually do it the opposite, right?
Okay.
And I say this in my player meeting, right? And they know it. If I have to start counting, I start at 0, and every number I get to before they get to me is how many recovery runs
love that
we're
idea.
running at training, right? So when I get and I always give a warning. I'm like, hey, let's go, come on, let's get out here, right? And so I'm giving the warnings. And then finally I'll be like, hey, 0, 1, right? And now they know I'm counting up. And whatever number I get to, that's how many recovery runs we're running at the end of training.
And asking your players that they should be jogging and not walking should be a standard, especially at the younger ages.
Yeah.
They're so full of energy.
Yep.
Jogging everywhere should just be what we all do.
Yep.
And it also lets you know who your hard workers are going to be. Because that one kid walking, he's probably going to be doing that every practice, in some games. And now you've got an idea of personality and things like that.
Yep, absolutely.
So, Coach, let's get into our next idea about transitioning, and that's your explanations. All right, we're in the orange box, working on technical drills. I do a thing where I explain it, I show it, I explain it, then you do it. Okay?
Yep.
And that all should take no more than a minute. And I think you and I have seen, and I've made this example in previous episodes where I randomly was at a park one day watching this guy coach his girls' team. They're probably U10s. And I watched 30 minutes of his practice, and he spent 20 of those 30 minutes talking.
Yeah.
And here's the reason that's a problem. They're going to remember 0 of what he said.
Yeah.
Because they're going to get bored. They're going to get distracted. They're going to start looking. They're going to start counting the grass.
Yep.
They're going to be looking at their friends, and they're going to block him out. The idea is to keep them engaged, make sure they're following direction while they're engaged, and they're playing. Playing is the biggest part of practice. That's why you need to get them playing sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and so 2 things I want to follow up with that in. Like, and you're right, even if your kids show up into your huddle, they are engaged. You're right, they're engaged. I mean, there's the age-old saying, they can be engaged for half of their age, right? So if they're an 8-year-old, they can be engaged with you for 4 minutes, right? And that's it. Anytime over that, you've lost them. And then if you go to 8 minutes, now they've also forgotten what you said in those first 4 minutes, right? Even if they were locked in and listening to what you said, now you've gone so long that they've forgotten whatever you started with, right? The second thing I want to bring with that is this is a graded on thing in the C license course. And I think I mentioned this in our previous episodes, but they want the ball rolling. And it is something that we got graded on. It's something that for most coaches, we don't even know we're doing. Like, I thought I was really good. And one of the things in my final feedback session was you talked too long at the beginning of training, right? And I think I talked for like 6 minutes and 12 seconds or something. They want it under 4. They want you talking for under 4 minutes at a time, right? And then they want to plan. So I keep that 4-minute mark in my mind. And then again, 4 minutes is not very long, especially for somebody like me who is a talker. Once you get going, 4 minutes is not a long time. And so you have to keep that in mind. But for even the pros, even the best varsity teams, they want their coaches talking for less than 4 minutes before, hey, we get that ball rolling again.
Yeah, and I think you made a great point. I love the attention span of half their age. That's something that we can make sense to.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is if you're still talking, you're giving too much detail.
Correct.
And I think we mentioned this in a previous episode where you should have keywords that you're using.
Right.
First touch, or it's body positioning, or it's communication. It's 2 or 3 things during that session that you like.
Engage, drive.
This is what we're focusing on.
Right.
This is what we're going to be doing.
Yep.
Now I need you to go do it. And all that should be under 4 minutes, under a minute.
Yeah.
And as they're playing, now we can start talking to individuals. Hey, lock that ankle up a little bit more, buddy. Hey, keep your eye on that ball. Little things that you start critiquing and you're coaching while they're playing.
One of my favorite things to do in these moments, and I know this isn't necessarily the art of the transition outside of just keeping our explanations, but you brought it up. One of my favorite things to do as a coach is if, like, I see a run that I want Chris to make as a wing or as a striker or whatever, I will be like, hey, Dunham, come talk to me. And then I'll be like, hey, Red, you're a man down.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then even after I talk to you for a minute, I'll make you stand by me for another minute just to see how Red, what's the word I'm looking for? Red adapts to being a man down all of a sudden.
And you and I keep harping on this. The playing is what's important here. You can talk all day long. It's no different than in school where you're learning math. If I'm listening to my teacher talk for 60 minutes and I'm just doing nothing, I didn't learn a single thing.
Yeah, right.
I need to do the work for it to stick in my head. And soccer and sports in general is no different.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, Coach, the last thing we're going to talk about here when it talks to transition is the momentum throughout your practice. Obviously, we've already talked about our structure of warm-up and the technical and so on and so forth. The momentum should be dealing with, we're starting off easy, but we're gaining energy as we're playing. And if your players are like mine, when I say at the end of practice, we're going to spend the last 30 minutes scrimmaging, they should be excited and fired up instead of being bored and ready to go home and asking for another water break.
Agreed. And I use it for me, of course, that's always the question, right? The first time they, as soon as they show up, it's, are we going to scrimmage tonight? Are we going to scrimmage tonight? And then I am very open and honest with my teams. I talked about it in my structure. I always plan to scrimmage at the end of training. But as a team, we have to get to that moment.
Yeah.
Right? We have to earn that scrimmage. We have to earn that that privilege to scrimmage, right? To go full field, to go 8v8 or whatever we have numbers for. I want you to scroll back up, to your pro tip. I love this assigning of ball captains, but I also think this is a huge part of transition that actually I learned in my C license course that I actually struggle with, right? I think just as a coach, I do it. I struggle with this by saying, hey, take off the red cones and I need all the balls in this spot, right? Or I need, hey, when we come back out, I need 4 balls here, 4 balls here, 4 balls. Just those little things. So I don't necessarily have ball captains, but I have captains. And if I say, hey, Kate, I need 4 balls here and 4 balls here when we come back out, I expect when it's time to go, there are 4 balls there and 4 balls there, right? So I do like that because I don't know why it is because it seems weird to me, but I learned personally about myself having the amount of times that I had to stop a drill because we had to go collect soccer balls was really bad on my part, right? Despite having 25 soccer balls at the training, we would run a drill for 4 or 5 minutes and we'd have to stop and go collect soccer balls.
Yeah.
And instead of saying, hey, I need every single ball we have right here in this spot before we go again. And then that's just a player responsibility.
Yeah.
So in those transitions, putting that on the players is so important.
Absolutely, Coach, and great points there. And let's move into our second half of the episode, dealing with intensity and controlling the energy. First off, folks, this is the A.C.E Football Academy. This is your Friday Footy Talk. I am Coach Dunham. This is Coach Hamilton. One thing that we have noted here, intensity does not mean chaos. Intensity should mean effort. It should mean purpose. There should be an energy of excitement in your practices. And it's the coach's responsibility to understand, all right, this training session right here is dying and the energy is going with it. I need to transition out of that to pick that energy back up and move into some other training activity or moving on to the next training activity, because obviously either they're not getting it or it's not giving the effect that I was hoping to get out of it.
And so I'm going to respond to that with a two-sided thing because I think everything you said is important. And I think we hit on this a little bit last week in the structure. You do have to be careful with the intensity, right? Mm-hmm. If we played on Saturday and now we played on Sunday and now we're training on Monday, which happens a lot, especially on the club side of things, right? You have to be careful with that intensity on the Monday morning or the Monday evening training, right? You have to make sure your players are taking care of their bodies. And let's be honest, at 12, 13, 14, 15, even 18 years old, they're not taking care of their bodies. And that falls on us as coaches to help them take care of their bodies, right? I mean, you and I did a whole episode about how one of our biggest pet peeves is when they hide injuries from us. And this is where those injuries happen, right? They played as hard as they could in a game on Saturday. I mean, I even think about like when you go to club tournaments. They played twice on Saturday. If they're a good team, they played twice on Sunday. If not, they played once on Sunday. And then now we got to train on Monday, right? You have to be very careful. And then we train on Monday, then we train again on Thursday, and then I have another match on Saturday and Sunday. That is a lot of soccer in a short period of time. So for the intensity, you just have to be careful with how you build those sessions, just knowing where your team is fitness-wise, where your players are maturity-wise, and going about it that way. The second thing that you mentioned was building on that intensity, right? Setting your trainings up for success. That's why I love the play, train, play. Because I'm going to open with the play. So we're going to get those competitive juices flowing. We're going to get those moments of winning and losing happening, right? And so now when I do transition into the train, we're already pumping, right? We're already moving. I can slow it. I can bring it back down a little bit because we talk all the time. As coaches, I'd rather have to dial you back than ramp you up, right? As a coach, it is easier for me to say, "Hey, let's back it down a little bit," versus me having to get you to that next level of energy. And so that's why I love that play, train, play, which goes back to our structure.
Yeah, you put a lot out there, Coach,
Yeah.
and I agree. No, I love everything you've just said. And it's important for the coach to understand what the individual training session is like. And it's once you get to about U12 and up, you can start explaining, hey, we're not technical here. I want you to be about a 50% work rate where you're more focused on the technique. And then moving into, all right, we're doing 5v5. I need 100% effort here where we are flying and working our butts off for the next 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Along with that, where you just mentioned where we just had a tournament and we got training on Monday, this is why we plan ahead.
Right.
If I know I've got a doubleheader on Saturday, I've got a makeup game on Sunday, and then we've got practice Tuesday, Thursday, and then the following weekend I've got a game Saturday, Sunday, that's a lot going on for those kids. I need to make sure I'm putting in a work to play ratio in my practices. Along with stating on our days off, you need to be drinking water.
Yeah.
You need to be stretching. Maybe go out for a light jog.
Yeah.
All these things need to go into your preparation, making sure that the intensity of your practices, the intensity and competitiveness of your games is also mixed in with rest periods in between.
Absolutely. And to that point of, those moments, I mean, high school soccer is one animal. Middle school soccer in our area is out of control. What they cram, and I coach a middle school team. Like, I get it. What they cram into ultimately about a 12-week span is unbelievable. And my advice to coaches, both middle school and club, is, and kind of just to wrap this portion of the fitness part of it up, or the intensity part of it up. There's nothing wrong with every now and then saying, "Hey, I'm canceling tonight."
Yeah.
Everybody stay home. Yeah. Sit on your couch, watch some TV. Hey, could we get some ball work in the commercial? Like, hey, watch your favorite program. When it goes to commercial, stand up, do some toe taps, do some bells, get some work on the ball, stretch, ice, compress, heat, all those things that we preach as coaches. But there's nothing wrong with giving a night off.
100% agree with that, Coach. And it's not just important for that season. It's important for their longevity of their careers.
Well, and you and I have talked off camera, and I hope we do an episode on this later, but we've also talked about, like, coach burnout, right? Yeah. It's important for a coach. Again, I know I'm a crazy person. I'm also not married. I don't have any kids, so I don't have a lot of obligations. But, for someone like you who is married and who has children, like, sometimes you need to say, "Hey, I got to take a night off," right?
You have no idea how true that is.
And so I think as coaches, we also need to understand that for our own mental health, and how big is mental health right now, and our own personal well-being, it is okay for us to say, "We play 4 games this weekend. We are not training tomorrow. Everybody go do what you need to do."
All right, Coach, just back into finishing up this episode here, about 5 minutes to go. Let's talk about how to increase the intensity of your training session. Yeah. And that's making either challenges or some kind of adjustment, or I guess the word is restraints
Right.
in your training session. So let's say we're ending it with a 5v5 and the energy just isn't there. Nothing ramps up kids more than holding points.
Yeah.
It will skyrocket them. I don't get it. And it could be, hey, the next team that scores, the other team does 5 push-ups. Right. Or, hey, red team, you're winning 2 goals to 1.
Yeah.
So green team, you're down a goal and you got 5 minutes to get it figured out.
Yep.
You want to see how your team reacts to different situations and different scenarios. That's a great way to pick up intensity, is adding those constraints and giving those challenges to different teammates, because they're friends and they want to beat their friends when they know that competition matters.
Well, and so that, right? And then, I mean, I'm just going to throw out ideas here. So, because you're right, you have to be able to build that energy, that competition, right? Because that's where we get better. We get better when we're under pressure. We get better when things are difficult. So, one of the things I like to do is, when there's 4 minutes left or whatever it is, right? And a team's 3-1. Team's up 3-1. All right, hey, the last 2 minutes, every goal's worth 2. Now it just takes 1 goal for me to tie you, right? It just takes 1 goal for you to blow the game open. So now things are interesting again, right? I know there's only 3 minutes left, but now everything's worth 2. I just got to find it 1 time, and we're going to draw. I love that. I've never done this before, and I would have to go and look at all of it, but I've read things about using a 6-sided die. And so you bring you bring 1 player from over for each team, right? And they each roll the die. And then they roll things like, if you score, your team gets a point and the other team loses a point. Right? So now it's almost worth, if you're the one that scores, you get 2 points. But then I also see that, like, if you make an assist, your team gets the goal and a point for the assist, right? Mm-hmm. So now I'm putting individual pressure, individual points on a player. And again, that just brings up that intensity. Now I go to my team and I'm like, hey guys, I can't score, because if I score, my team loses a point, right? So I have to look to distribute. So when I get the ball, I need people making those runs because I can't score, right? And so doing things like that, they just create that added competition. It also creates that added thinking, right? Because now I get the ball on a breakaway, but I know that I rolled the 4. So if I score, my team's going to lose a point. So now I'm looking around, is my wing coming where I can just lay it off, my wing can tap it in? Or, so all those things that you're adding that mental game, you're adding that competitiveness, which is only going to bring up the intensity of the match.
And I love what the key there that you said is competitive.
Yeah.
Competition. I'll wrap this episode up with something that I did years ago in high school. Just like you said, we end every practice with
love this. Love this.
With a scrimmage. And, it wasn't that they weren't working. I just didn't feel like I was getting the passion that I needed. So I made a change that every Friday we would have a team-on-team competition. And I would call it Competition Friday. The only difference was the losing team had to run a mile, 20 push-ups, 20 sit-ups, clean everything up, and to put all the equipment away. The winning team, they picked up their stuff and they were gone. They had nothing they had to do. And I tell you what, the level of competition
on Friday
that grew from those Competition Fridays was, it blew my mind. The thing was, nothing changed in how we ended our practices.
Yeah.
We were still doing a typical scrimmage. But now that I put those challenges, and they were playing against their teammates, they were playing for points, but now there's a clear incentive.
Yeah. I want to go home. It's Friday. I want to go to the football game.
That was it.
Yeah.
I want to leave practice to get to the football game to hang out with my friends. And now if I lose, I'm going to be late.
At least another 20 minutes, even for your
they had to finish. They had to finish that mile, 20 push-ups, 20 sit-ups. Then they had to clean up.
Yeah.
They can get their stuff, then put everything away, and then go home.
Yeah.
And
I love
what I'll tell you this, what pleased me the most wasn't just the passion of their play, it was when they were done. I still saw the passion in the kids that lost.
Yeah.
I saw the passion in the kids that won.
Yeah.
And every week you could tell they were pumped to get that one again.
Yeah.
And it changed everything.
Yeah.
Coach, great episode today. Talking about the transition, talking about the intensity and competitiveness in our training sessions. Hope you've learned something new here. We are the ACE Football Academy. I'm Coach Dunham. That's Coach Hamilton. Go kick some ace.